So I was wrong, we're getting more Kureishi versus Ohma. But considering we're now coming closer to chapter 300, I'm also going to have to revise some other ideas that I'm going to talk about towards the end of the video because they're not directly related to this chapter. But yeah, Kureishi and Ohma turn it up a notch in this chapter. Amazing read all around, but let's not waste any time. Name of the chapter is "Ya Good?" with a question mark in the end. And it starts off with Kureishi trying to grab onto Ohma's arms. Ohma's trying to avoid this scenario, so he's sort of smacking the hands away. But Kureishi, he's continuing to try and grab his hand. But Ohma notices that Kureishi does a little slight move, and that is hold on to two of Ohma's fingers here. And once he holds on to Ohma's fingers, we see him do a wild grab, like swing down, and we hear a crack. So Kureishi, he's trying to break a bone here. That's what we've seen from the last chapter. That's what we're gonna continue to see here. He's trying to get something on Ohma, and it seems like he has, right? That huge crack sound. And we have Liu, in the background. He's like, hey, he starts calling Kureishi a moron. He's like, hey, this is a sparring match. Why are you so serious? So Liu can see that, oh no, this is getting a lot more heated between Ohma and Kureishi, and it's on the part of Kureishi here because Ohma was acting cool when he fought Toa, when he fought Liu himself, and so we can see here Kureishi is turning up the heat and Ohma is responding in kind because he won't back down from a situation like this. But Liu has to shout and say, hey look, this isn't a match to the death, okay? Calm your ass down, Kureishi. But then we get to see what that crack was, and it turns out it's not Ohma's fingers or even Ohma's hand. It's actually Kureishi's own right hand. His elbow joint has been kind of dislocated, and so it's in an awkward upward position from the upper part of Kureishi's arm. And we then have Toa say, hey, like, that's kind of impressive because Ohma pulled off a move like that, which is basically a counter to dislocate Kureishi's elbow. And Kureishi, he's also impressed because he wants to know, hey, what was that move, Ohma? Like, does it even have a name? And Ohma replies like, hey, look, he did use the Nico style. That's one thing he clarifies, but not all Nico style techniques have a name. That's obvious, right? But it's important to note that it's the Nico style that's been used here. And so there might be some redirection going on here, maybe, but it's an unnamed style. We don't even know what type of kata specifically make up that move. But hey, if we ever see Kureishi fight again, we might actually see that move getting pulled off. But something that I didn't actually talk about before is when Kureishi's asking this question, there is a difference in the tone that he's using. So the speech bubbles have kind of changed a bit, but we also starting with those musical notes at the end of the speech bubble. So that, at least from my experience, is kind of like the Hisoka voice, especially when he's filled with ecstasy, right? And we're seeing the same thing for Kureishi, the freak for a reason. And we can see, yeah, like even when he says, I would love to hear about that technique when we're done here, he kind of says the word love, with an exaggeration, with a punch, right? Kureishi's in the zone right now. He's, turned full freak. But he's still gonna turn it up later on in this chapter. But Ohma's like, yeah, sure, we'll talk about that. And he sort of snaps his fingers into place because it seems like they got dislocated. But Ohma notices something, that because of the way it sounded when Kureishi's elbow got dislocated or broken, funny enough, that's the thing in question here, Ohma thinks, hey, I don't think I actually broke Kureishi's elbow there, and he's right about that. Kureishi snaps the elbow back in place. So again, Kureishi's experience definitely speaking volumes at this point. Ohma's doing pretty well. He's holding himself down. He's able to cope against Kureishi pretty well. And he even says at one point that, hey, look, he's actually thankful for Ohma. He hasn't gotten the chance to unleash in the way that he has in this sparring match, and we see that devious smile and panting from Kureishi. And Ohma's like, oh yeah, that's probably true because you can't actually get like this with, let's say, Cosmo and Adam, considering he's their master. But that goes to show that for a long time, Kureishi hasn't been unleashing his full potential, let's say. And also considering that he's now a master, there's just far less opportunities for that. But Liu is like, okay, Joji, it's time. You should probably stop this because these people are going serious right now. And Joji, he's kind of like same attitude kind of as the last time where it's like, don't worry, chill out. But you can tell Joji's kind of worried about what's happening. There is that point where he's like, yeah, this is definitely getting pretty serious, because he's like, yeah, don't take my word for it, but I think they're gonna be fine. Which makes Liu, he's like, okay, now I'm even more worried than before. But he'll lean towards Joji's judgment, right? And then Joji then turns around, asks Toa and Toku to be like, hey look, if anything goes wrong, just say that I had all the necessary precautions in place, that this wasn't my fault, because like this is his dojo, right? He's the guy in charge here. So we can already see Joji, even though he says everything's cool, he's prepared for the worst. So everyone knows, okay, this is a lot more serious than the previous two fights. We then go over to Ohma, who is now pondering over Kureishi as a fighter, because off of his experience, he knows now that look, Toa is basically 2 times more powerful than Kureishi, and Liu, he's got better technique, at least overall. But Kureishi, at least for Ohma, is more frightening, and I think it's because of his cunningness and just raw experience, right? It makes him incredibly dangerous to fight against. And so that makes him the most frightening because he just is way more creative, will pull out very dangerous techniques on Ohma. And considering this is a sparring match, Kureishi is probably still holding back, even though he's getting a little freaky deaky right now. And with that, Kureishi then charges in at Ohma. Taking a low stance, Ohma is standing firm, he's gonna stand his ground, and we have Kureishi grab Ohma's forearm again. But this time it seems like Ohma sort of put his hand in that direction, so he has a plan here. He moves his left hand that Kureishi is holding onto, he shifts it a bit to the left and throws a punch directly at Kureishi's face. So he has a right hook, right? But Kureishi, he's taking the trade, because now that he has Ohma's left arm, he then flips Ohma over. Like Ohma lands on his backside, and this was the point where I was like, okay, if Kureishi can finish this up, because this is a huge moment in the fight for Kureishi in my opinion, because he's now got Ohma down and he has one of his arms. And Kureishi, he goes for an armbar. Or I forgot what type of submission this is, where you have your opponent lying down, you use your legs to hold down their body. It'll be in the video as a picture, right? This is the best position Kureishi has ever been in the sparring match. But Ohma manages to get more strength, get a gap basically, to shift his body, at least most of his body, excluding his left arm, which is being held by Kureishi. He shifts his weight while also throwing a punch. So he's shifting towards the left, he's throwing a punch at Kureishi and lands directly on Kureishi's face, and that one sends him flying. Like, I want you to understand, they're on the floor when this happens, and he is sliding back. It was so powerful. And it is at this point where Kureishi's like, okay, Ohma, you're pretty good. Can we actually make this more than a sparring match? So Kureishi is like, look, I'm kind of holding back my bag here, okay? There's more freak left. And Ohma's like, bring it on. Let's go. I was born ready. Because Ohma doesn't back out from a challenge, at least not typically. But with that, the time actually hits and it's over. And it looks like Toku was just waiting, because Toku's there. He's like, hey yo, get out. Kureishi, it's over. put the freak to rest. It's my time now. And of course, Kureishi turns off the freak like it was never on in the first place. Even apologizes for unleashing the freak, but of course, Ohma doesn't think much of it. He says it's fine. He hopes to actually face him again in the future. He even apologizes to the rest of the team as well. And we then have Joji saying, hey look, this is just supposed to be a sparring match, not like a fight to the death like what you were doing. And Liu, he gets pissed at this because this was exactly the same thing that he said. So Joji's copying this man word for word, being a goofball again. And Kureishi sort of admits that he was having a good time there. And he even says that he wishes that he had actually broken a bone. So Kureishi got nothing. I liked this chapter. Great fight, honestly. But Kureishi got nothing done. Like, he came close, but could never close the deal. And now, Toku is up next. So again, confirmed, Joji's the final boss, right? There was always a chance that things might get mixed up here and there, but no. Toku is the guy who's going to be coming in from this point. And he asked Ohma if he wants to take a break, and Ohma's like, nah, I'm kind of charged up right now. I have momentum. Let's go. And so, yeah, gonna be interesting to see how Toku deals. I think Toku will do better than Kureishi, mainly because he's fresh, of course, but also I think Toku is gonna be physically stronger than Kureishi. I think he'll be able to contend with Ohma in a way that Kureishi couldn't because he's just stronger, has way more endurance. So we saw here multiple times with Kureishi flying back whenever Ohma is going to hit him, and he's avoiding most of what Ohma can do. Toku may not be like that. He's more like a tank grappler. So Ohma's gonna have a problem here. But yeah, considering we're on chapter 297 and we only got 3 chapters to chapter 300, it seems like I may have been wrong about the Shen Wulong fight actually happening at chapter 300. It's more than likely the case that Joji will probably fight Ohma around that chapter mark, or the fight will be concluding between him and Joji, assuming Toku only lasts like what, 1 chapter? But yeah, those are my thoughts on the chapter. Great, I enjoyed it. Kureishi being a good freak. Ohma, again, got a few close calls, but was definitely performing way better than Kureishi in this fight. And yeah, can't wait for more of this. Don't forget to like and sub, and until next time, take it easy.